weather has supported our efforts today in recording Table 7. So
2.0, Table 7, version 2.
72.
Since last week's weather destroyed the podcast we recorded.
Yeah. So I actually want to start out with a very important question. And this is per Roman's suggestion. And I actually been trying to figure this out myself. But Mike, how do you make your beard look so good?
Sweat. I don't know.
It takes 11 miles a day of running.
I thought it was gonna be like he wakes up and whispers to his beard balm.
No,
and then he applies it.
I don't really have. This is just how it is.
What am I looking at?
I think
his beard.
I know, but what makes it like clean? I guess.
So I don't know. Like,
tell me the art.
So from episode 1 to episode 7, if you've been paying attention, my beard has been growing, and since I feel like I don't know how to maintain it properly. Like I'll have a lot of flyaways and stuff, but I think I look at it too closely. Like what I was telling you.
I think that everybody looks at their own everything too closely because I don't see any flyaways.
What is a flyway when it's
sticking out?
Yeah. So
I don't.
Yours has the most.
Yeah, because I don't really do much anymore. I just line it up. I feel like as I line it up, it makes it look okay, and then the rest I just let do.
It's gonna make it. If yours look really full, and Mike's looks like very maintained.
I definitely don't maintain it. I think I brush it every so often.
So it's a brush.
Oh, is that the secret?
Yeah.
Do you brush yours?
I do have a brush actually.
It's boar bristle brushes.
All right. Well,
and sweat.
And sweat, lots of sweat.
10 miles. If you do 10 miles a day, you're
more than that. You gotta do at least half a marathon.
Hey, I actually broke my record doing 6.5 yesterday.
Your ass actually stay on the treadmill the whole entire time.
Wait, you walked or you
walked?
Sorry,
No.
ran. He ran.
I didn't run. I off and on, like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off type of thing.
But 6 miles total at once?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I don't even think I could do that.
Well, I told him I was like, set a timer and stay on it the whole entire time.
What's the time limit?
1 hour.
Oh, that's.
Dude, wait, that's kind of fast. 6 miles in 1 hour?
Yeah.
It's a 10-minute mile.
Running from an
Yeah,
hour.
that's the fastest I've ever done. I mean,
No, just keep doing it.
Yeah. So.
Every day.
Yeah. All right. So enough about my running. So Mike, we have 3 topics today, and we're gonna start with yours. It is planning versus action. Can you give us the context and?
Well, I would say no, it's not versus. It's more of knowing when the proper time is for you to stop just planning and thinking of all these ideas and when to put it into action. A lot of people have a lot of great ideas, but no action. There's no execution. And sometimes you can get paralysis just by stress or anxiety, like not sure if it's going to work out and doubting yourself and all these things. So you focus more on the planning stuff because that's not action. It's more comforting because it's just an idea. So you're just you're not really tied to it without putting any form of physical and mental action to it and no execution. So, it's for people who get nervous about that stuff and get stuck in that planning phase because of that, that stress paralysis or anxiety. Oh, maybe it's not going to work. Just so you know, every single person, I'm pretty positive every single person on this table, including myself, have gone through that, anxiety of shoot, is this going to work? Am I going to be able to do this? It's completely normal. And if you have that level of fear and anxiety, it's fine. That makes you more alert, more aware of your surroundings. I think about it the same thing as we used to think about when I'm fighting. To say anyone that says that they're fearless when it comes into fighting somebody, physically, you're probably lying to yourself because deep down inside you always kind of have that question. But I feel like that heightens your senses. It makes you want to train better. You look for certain things differently. You're hypercritical about certain things, but you're still putting it into action. So having that fear and anxiety it's normal. And in fact, I think it's a good thing because you can use that as motivation or fuel, and you can use it to snap out of that that fear paralysis where you're just in that planning stages, right? So obviously you need to have certain ducks in a row, have either a mental game plan or a mental, for me, my business plan's in my head because it's constantly evolving. I see no purpose in putting it down on paper because it's going to change in a week or two when things develop more. But I do have certain tasks that I want to complete on a certain everyday, certain routines and stuff that I need to complete every single day so I can progress my business. So the planning and action are always coinciding with each other. There is no like, I'm going to plan this and then I'm going to execute this. It's like, as G would know, and as you guys know, being with me, is that like we plan as we go. We plan as we execute. The game plan is always consistently growing, and we're constantly executing on those things on a daily basis. So planning and what was the actual name
taking
of the
action.
And taking action, it all should go in the same sense. You plan as you go, and you essentially sink the ships behind you. Stick to plan A, and kind of just go with it from there.
I have a kind of follow-up question. Do you ever do like reviews, like a monthly, quarterly, yearly review? Like, this is what happened. This is what I could have changed. This is what I could have done better. This is how my week went. These are the good and bad things that happened.
I do that on a daily basis. I don't really like. For me, I'm very big on like.
But some things don't happen like on a like.
Well, I figured
take longer time, right?
Well, I mean, I'd look at it in this way. Like, obviously, like you look at it on a long term. Like the same thing with marketing, right? You have our ads, right? We see how this ad runs for 4 or 5 days a week, and then okay, it doesn't work. This one is working, so let's take the money off of that one, put it into the one that's working. So you have certain things that you analyze, that you go through. Like, okay, like you look at this marketing, thing that we're gonna do, this rebranding thing we're gonna do, this new structure of the Canine U or Street League or whatever, maybe one of our businesses, just to kind of keep it all relative to what we're doing. I mean, you definitely look at those. Like, I don't set it out like I'm gonna review this in a week or two, unless it's like a marketing strategy or a business strategy, or like a month or two. It's more of like, all right, this is what I did last week. This is today or this yesterday. This is what worked for me. This is what I'm gonna do today, and I constantly do that along with reviewing the year before, the quarter before, and especially when it comes to sales trends, that's a monthly thing that you have to review, and you see what you did. But I've learned that as long as you're self-analyzing almost on a daily basis, when it comes time to do that long-term review, you already know what you reviewed, right? You've already known it because you've been looking at, you're like, man, I've been dolphin noising up these last few weeks or days. This is what I got to change, because you already look at yourself in the mirror and like, dang, like these are the things I got to do. So I notice, and at least for me, what works for me, if I'm more hypercritical on myself when I'm going through certain things, then the comeback's even better, because I've already been like stressing myself on a daily basis. Like, I need to do more and more and more, versus just kind of looking at it on a later term and like giving myself that time to be like, okay, we're just going to do this. Mm-hmm. So as long as I'm like looking at it in that way on a personal level and in a business sense, it helps out a lot more. But I mean, yeah, obviously you should look at your business strategies and marketing strategies, training strategies on a long-term basis, and review those. But also having that daily, almost like morning check-in with yourself, like, all right, this is what I need to do. This is what I did yesterday that I didn't particularly care for. This is what I got to do today. Especially like, if you guys are on like the food thing, right? Like when you're looking at your caloric intake, the nutrition, all those things like that, you're looking at, okay, like this is what I've eaten yesterday to help me perform this way. This is what I got to eat today to get this way. Looking at that data helps a lot too, especially if it's done continuously.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it comes down to like really like how much is it like, structure versus like going, right, in a sense. And I think for you particularly, Mike, you've been in business for so long, you kind of know what happens on a day-to-day basis in a sense, right? Or even more so, what's going to happen. Like, you do this, you do X, Y is going to happen, right? Type of thing, Yeah. So, I mean, it may be a little bit more easier in a sense, because right? Well, I mean, I think my personal opinion is like, it depends on like the type of person you are and what stage in business you're in, like.
Also who you listen to as well. I mean, because you can get gems. Ed calls them gems. I call them cheat codes. Like, if you, like for me, like you said, I've been in business for a long period of time. I know if I do this is my end result. You become like your own little palm reader. Like, you're going to, if you keep doing this, you're going to burn it. You're going to do those things.
Right.
You understand what you're doing. And the longer you do it, the more you understand it. And that way you can kind of greatly decrease those things. And I've noticed myself from understanding those things on a business level and personal level, it used to go from like every quarter, like, dang, I'm super burnt out, I'm tired about these things, to now like once a year, to like, now it's even getting better, like, because I understand these things and I know what's kind of going, what's it called when someone that psychic, Is that psychic? When you can read the future?
Yeah.
You become your own personal psychic because you're like, damn, like I know what this is gonna lead to, and then you go from there. So you gain cheat codes. You start understanding certain things, and then that all comes with analyzing yourself on like the consistency and what you're doing.
It's called experience.
But you can gain experience without gaining knowledge. But if you analyze it, then you can gain experience and knowledge at the same time.
So, I mean, that's how you do it, Mike. What about you, Raman?
I mean, I think it's somewhat similar and somewhat what you mentioned earlier. I think what I really do is, in a way, evaluate the day, the weeks, the months. I do that by journaling. And what it is like the end of the day, really just going through my thoughts and also the actions of what happened. And I keep a journal and a planner. So I keep them kind of separate. And every day after I journal, I set up my planner. This is what I got to accomplish for the day. And it's not like everything, but it's like if these tasks get taken care of, like it's a good day. And then I know that and then I highlight them throughout the day. I got this done, and then I'm able to at the end of the day evaluate it. But then what I'll do is on Sundays I'll evaluate the week by looking at those, and then at the end of the month I just look at my weekly reviews and I evaluate that. And that's how I kind of determine what I missed out on, what I did. And I used to have a hard time keeping myself accountable, especially when you have your own schedule, right? And especially if you're doing like a business kind of like mine. Like I feel like with the dog training, like you always have these dogs coming in. So, I got to take care of this dog, I got to train this, I got this client coming in. When you're doing something more around sales and kind of your own outreach, it's really hard to stay accountable and do those unfun tasks. So journaling and planning has really been the key to kind of help me.
That's like really, I liked how people do that stuff too. Like that journaling and planning, like things that does make it a lot easier to like review certain things and, like you said, hold that accountability thing. And at first, like I always thought like journaling, that's kind of weird. Like it's like having a diary, shit, right? Like right? Like what the heck is that? I didn't believe it works. And then it's always like, where do you start, right? Like what do you do? And then I just started. My friend kind of introduced it to me, told me how he does it, and I just started like writing thoughts, right? And then just kind of, then it turned into a system from there. And just by doing it, I think a lot of people overthink a lot of the stuff they have to do or they're going to want to do. You just kind of start and you build a system along the way.
I mean, I feel like it's like for me, I do a lot of the similar stuff that you're saying. Like I try to be better on like the review stuff. That's why I kind of followed up with Mike, just to see what Mike would say on that. But me personally, like I do a lot of the I do a lot of the review stuff on a weekly basis. That I think that gives me the freedom to kind of do what I need to do on a daily basis. Because like you were talking about earlier, it's like a lot of the experience we've been doing this for so long. You kind of know the day in, day out. But when I look at it from a bigger picture standpoint, I was like, all right, we did this for these are the goals that we set out to do, and we break it down by week, month, quarter, yearly. Did we hit those goals? Why or why not? And how to do it better or more efficient or whatever it may be. I think a lot of people have like what's the question that they always ask, where you want to be in 5 years, right? I think 5 years can be a long time to think about, but if you break it down in a 5 year, 1 year, monthly that get you to the 5 or 10 year, I think that's where the planning comes in, but it has to be paired with the action side of it, right? I think that's how Mike started it out, where it's like I can plan for days. I think we're talking about two different things. Like planning is one thing, reviewing is one thing. They both have their place, but the biggest I feel like portion is at the action side of it, right? Yeah. I can plan for days. Hell, I think someone actually even like called me out on something. Is like G has a shiny object syndrome, and what that is like, hey, there's this new thing that comes out. Let's learn about that and see how we can implement it instead of like actually doing the work. You know what I mean? Not saying I'm not doing the work. I just like, ooh, what the hell? I mean, what the dolphin noise is this, right? Like, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see like planning versus like action. 'Cause it has to be both at the same time. Like, I mean, so again, I guess like I agree a lot with what Mike was saying, to start this off. So, but Ed,
I like the way that G and Raman has the systems. of like how they either review or physically write down the stuff for their planning. Because for me and my businesses, I feel like I'm always working in my business, but I'm not working on my business. Like I'm not planning steps ahead. And I think that's something moving forward, that's what I want to do. Last time I think you mentioned something about like the post-it notes or something for your to-dos, right? So I actually bought some the other day because I was like, I feel like for me, if I have stuff physically laid out to remind me, I do a lot better. Yeah. And then I feel like moving forward, I want to do like weekly reviews on my own stuff and kind of figure out the trends within my own business and then make improvements each time. Because right now it's just like doing the day-to-day work of it. I'm just like working it as a job, but it's not kind of like, what is that called when it's like working on your business? Like growing the actual business side of it instead of just like working it.
Well, I think you said it perfectly in the sense like your day-to-day is consumed with actually doing the day-to-day work versus planning for the future.
Yeah, and I want to get more planning in basically now.
I mean, I also feel like it's like that difference between like a worker versus thinking. It's a different mindset, right? Like you're thinking in the CEO. Like if I was a CEO of my business, would I take this step, right? Mm-hmm. But you got to set time aside to think in that way, right? Like, because if you're doing the day to day, then you're just thinking like a worker in a sense, right? So I think like, having that like, even like, okay, if I'm looking at my finances, like what would a CFO do? Like separate yourself from it and look at it from a third person perspective in a sense and be like, like this is what's happening. This is what I got to do, right? So I feel like, having that different mindset, I mean, you said it perfectly, like working on your business. I feel like it is that, okay, I got to look at it as like a CEO of my company, and I don't know if that's like cliche to say or whatever, but that's kind of how I feel about that.
I think too, like the reason like the Post-it notes are like really good too is because it's a physical action, right? Like you tear it down, you write it on there, you put it up, you tear it down, like you've accomplished those things. I mean, like for me, I use that's on the side of my bed. I cleared off everything already, but I got to put some more stuff on it. But like, that's where like those like individual like morning meetings that I have with myself, it's more like, all right, cool. Like here's the short term, here's the long term. These are the things that I have going on that I got to, basically search and destroy for. So like, that's kind of like, where I use those things. I mean, like, and then cause I misplace things a lot. So I lose things a lot. So the notebook thing I lost my Remarkable for like a month. Oh no. But like I found it. Precious. But
like, you always keep this with you though.
Yeah, so I use that. Like I either take pictures or I use that notes on my thing or the checklist on my phone to make sure I have that. And then the Post-it notes are like the morning meetings where I'm like, rip that off, and then put more on type of a thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because for me, if I put reminders on my computer, there are some days where I'm not using my computer and then I miss out on that stuff. Where the physical thing, it's like, it's there no matter what.
Yeah, that's why I gotta use the phone.
A big thing about like kind of that whole journaling and planning, the reason I do it is, you tend, when things are going well, you might fall off from that, but I use it every day for the days that I'm going to fall off. And that's where the accountability comes in for it. Because some days you have the system and you could go weeks and months and you could be killing it and progressing, but then you'll have like this slump. And if you have this system, it helps you stay out or minimize that slump. So it's that's why I try to stay consistent with it, because I've really seen that I feel like I'm not doing it for the day-to-day. I'm doing it for those slump or bad days that kind of pop up.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we're gonna go right into like the next topic, which is how we schedule our day-to-day, how we schedule our tasks.
All right, well, since all of us here, we kind of have different lines of businesses, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on how you schedule out your like daily tasks. Not like how you were talking about the journaling thing, because that's more like an overview, but this one's more like the little details of your day and how you kind of organize it to make your day flow better. So,
Roman, I'll touch on a little bit. Yeah,
you have the most interesting one, so let's hear about it.
I mean, correct me if it's a little
bit
not
cool
off topic.
You have the most.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, this is not.
What if mine's most interesting? Damn.
No, I think that for me, the biggest thing is measuring metrics. And, I guess just a little background on it is with the real estate, and I find off-market real estate, so it's a lot of calls. And the biggest thing I found when I was first working under somebody and kind of learning the game was it's all a numbers game, and it's really a metrics of how many people you call, how many people you touch, how much time you spend on the phone, it equals how many deals you find. So for me, it's really, if I'm looking to have a month where I want to close the most deals possible, it's about in 8 hours a day, how many calls do I have to make? for how many offers I have to make. And just to give an idea, it sounds a little bit more higher, but I call people twice, so it's 80 to 100 calls a day.
Jesus.
Having 3 to 4 hours of conversation time.
Never
and
mind,
putting out
yours
5.
doesn't sound fun.
It's not fun at all. And putting out 5
I take
offers
that
a day. Yeah, it's definitely not fun. And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand with every business, right? I imagine you guys have the same situation. Like the core of the business sometimes isn't the fun part, right? And for me too, it's like, this isn't something that I want to consistently stay doing, being on the phone, making all these calls. But it's something to help me kickstart, making some money, then investing in some real estate, and then finding opportunities within real estate. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm transitioning out of that calling and being on the phone and doing sales to more investing. But yeah, I think for me, it's really just measuring metrics, and it's all the a program that I use and kind of tells me where everything's at.
Follow-up question: do you have like set days? Like, I mean, that's not your daily thing that you say like, hey, I'm going to call X amount of people.
Yeah, I mean, so like now it definitely isn't. Before, when I was just trying to build income and I was just trying to make as much money as possible, it was what I did, 9 to 5 per se, right? Like every single day, Monday to Friday. Sometimes on the weekend because people are home on the weekends, so more people answer. But, then I had like set schedules. I think now, like, for example, just to, I'm looking to open care homes, right? And I'm looking to lease because it's the least cost effective way. So what I do is every day I spend an hour calling property management companies that have properties for lease and calling them or leaving them a message and just saying, hey, I'm looking to, open up another facility in your area. Would you consider leasing to me? This is what I'm looking for. This is what I have to offer. So I spend about like an hour to 2 a day on the phones now compared to what I used to do.
Nice. I the reason why I asked that is because, like for me, like I have like a lot of like days I do certain things.
Yeah, I feel like you have like, there's days where you shoot and then there's days where you edit, like the whole day basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like when I was like, I don't know, I want to say like third grade. I don't know if you guys did this, but there's this like test that you do is like if you're left or right brained. Do you guys remember?
No,
I mean, you heard of the test,
something
though,
like
right?
that. Yeah.
So I'm like both. I'm neither left nor right. I'm like both. So what I realized like during the day, if I go from like my creative side to like more of like maybe calling somebody, doing like my admin stuff, it becomes like I get like super drained at the end of the day, like, or like it's really hard for me to transition just because that's that's why whatever. I mean I still find a way to do it. It's just a little bit more of a struggle in a sense, right? So I do have certain days I do the creative work versus like the admin work or versus like the, working on the business. Like Mondays for me are content days for BCO. Tuesdays are, our media day. So we do this podcast and I try to edit it the same day. Wednesdays are any spillover for editing, but I do the editing like on Wednesdays. And then Thursday, Friday are usually for prospecting and like doing my meetings, either whether it's for networking or for like actual clients. But I would say like any client that wants to meet, I do like, make time for that because obviously that's money coming in, right? So, I mean, that's kind of how I've broken down my week. And I try to have like at least every other weekend available for family or, my girlfriend, so we can just spend time together, But if it's Saturday, Sunday, it's like working on my business, like research and development or trying new things or figuring out ways to like market our business so we can get like in front of the clients that we want. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I have my day broken down, but I use a lot of tools that I mentioned before. Won't repeat those now, but it's those tools are there for like, I need to know, like, I like what Raman said. It was like the measurables. Like, I do the, I keep saying do. I'm on that. I do like the daily check-in, and I have a system for that as well. But I like to measure it in wins and losses. I think I mentioned that last time as well. But with the wins and losses, I can look at it very quickly, like on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. You can have losses, but going from there, it's like, like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year. Did they have zero losses? No, they had some losses throughout the season. So, me being a sports fan, that's kind of how I measure those things. So, that's kind of how I break down my tasks on a daily basis, on a weekly basis.
Dang. I mean, I like how you do it where it's like you have the separate days. 'Cause I feel like it's easy to keep it organized. Well, I mean, mine, it's still somewhat measurable on how things are going to play out throughout the day anyways. It's just not broken down by days like that. So then for me, I would say like my average day, I would say I gym in the morning. Then for any in-person like clients or hard scheduled stuff, it's usually in that 10 a.m. to like noon mark. And then I'll usually have a gap until like evening, because that's usually when people get off work. So that's when I meet with people after that. And I kind of try to squeeze in either my own marketing or editing stuff between those times, or then afterwards. And then for days where it's like, let's just call today like a production day, right? Or a half day production day. Then those ones, it's where you have to plan ahead, where it's like, oh, you're going to lose on half of your day because we have to meet up and do this type of stuff, where it's going to take, 3 to 4 hours, depending on how many kind of meetups you have for that day.
Yeah.
And then that's when I kind of feel like I have to use part of my weekend to balance that out. And then just for weekends, I always want to make sure I still have time for family, because, with us doing all this stuff, it's very fast paced, and it's hard to get that time with people if we don't hard schedule it into our calendar.
I mean, do you feel like, I think I asked this last time as well.
I will repeat the answer since it got blown out by the blackout.
Well, I mean, it's like, do you miss things because you don't necessarily have a system in a sense? Like, you miss certain tasks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep, that happens all the time. So then now, as we talked in the last topic, I got my Post-it notes ready, so we're going to fix that up a little bit.
No, I like having like white space in between. I think that will give you some time to transition from task to task, but or like you don't miss things. So you can plug those things right in. I think I like the 5-minute rule, which is like, if you can do it in 5 minutes, just do it right then and there. I practice that on a daily basis, but yeah, I mean, I think it also comes back to your want to like progress in business. So on that note, like, I feel like, hey, like, if you can't, it doesn't fit within your schedule, and I think you guys said last time, is like, well, you got to stay up a little bit later. So yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about our worst fears.
Pooping without toilet paper, being on the toilet.
Oh my God.
In a public setting. Public bathroom.
With light colored pants.
So it begs me the question, who wears light colored pants?
I have some khaki ones that I'm terrified to wear.
Got some khakis.
Especially with how much I sweat.
Got some khakis. Okay, so I was halfway expecting like spiders and snakes. Like,
gotta revamp that, bro.
Those.
Huh?
We could add tarantulas.
Tarantulas? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like
that are outside here.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I don't know if in the previous episode, was it the one before that, I was like, you said you have a lot of tarantulas, and I think Ed like agreed to saying like, I am never filming out here ever again because of tarantulas.
There's we get some weird. Like I said, I'm from the city, so we get daddy long legs and the occasional black widow. But out here, you see quite the variety of different large and small spiders.
Ugh.
Not to mention like salamanders, lizards, and a bunch of other stuff. So
that's scary stuff.
It's Nat Geo over here.
It is Nat Geo. Yeah, my Ed with the sniper lens out there.
We'll take some tarantula pics.
I've only seen one. Actually, no. You know what's crazy is Erin has actually. She sent me a video. I wonder if she still has it. Freaking scorpions. We have scorpions over here too.
Oh my God.
There's one in the. I think she had to step on it, but there was one in the garage.
She stepped on it. She doesn't like. Eek.
No, she did. But she's like, we're moving. So I'm like, oh, no, okay.
Wait, we're moving?
No, this was like last summer.
Oh.
We're still living here.
Where are we going? Where are we doing the table next? So, all right, I'm gonna start with Mike on this. Like, what is like your actual worst fear?
My worst fear is just kind of it's always been the kind of the same thing, just not reaching like my full potential, or like making people, like especially like my family who had I don't want to say my family, my blood relatives or whatever, people who are related to me by my blood. A lot of the things that they would say about me as a kid is like, I'm either gonna get someone pregnant early, or I'm gonna end up in prison. I mean, I did get someone pregnant, but I was 30 and I was married at the time. And then, I ended up in prison as well, but I actually got out of it and, established a really good business. So in the sense of like, what they were thinking was like, it was going to be in my teenage stages. I was never going to live past a certain point in my 20s. And I did all of those things. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, it's my fear has always been not achieving my full potential or what I believe my full potential is, or, maximizing those things, even some of the faults, getting over those things and trying to be the best person I possibly can be. So not achieving or getting to where I want to be, or where I think I can be, or at least making the effort to be as good as I possibly can be. That's probably my biggest fear. And, utilizing, that's why I kind of got that chip on my shoulder, utilizing what was said about me when I was just a kid, from people who were supposed to be my family as like the fuel, and then utilizing some of the things I've done in my own past, that of the mess ups I've made, to use that as fuel to get better and to be better. So I guess my biggest fear, as cliche as it may sound, is not being the best me I possibly can be. And that's not just necessary for me, but for the people that rely on me, my family and everything like that, and creating the best possible future for, the people that love and trust me. So my fear is basically not being able to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think, kind of to touch on it in a similar way, and I know G and I talked about this a lot, and there's a lot of similarities, but I think the big fear for me is doing all this and, not making it, all the stuff that we kind of set our mind to and why we do all this, right? For the family, for our loved ones, but also our parents, or, all the kind of doubt we had, going into entrepreneurship. Especially with like my culture and G's culture, there's this expectation or this hope that you get this like engineering, medical job, work a 9 to 5, do well, create a family and buy a property here and there and build something of yourself and progress. But what we're trying to do is like from nothing build an extreme case, right? To, take care of your family for the rest of their life, right? To have that kind of passed down. So, I think the big fear is that, right? Is like, I'm doing this, I'm taking all this risk, I'm getting some believers, getting some people that doubted me, but not making it, happen at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Mike said as well, and what you're saying is, I think my parents definitely wanted me to, go do the linear thing like we talk about all the time, is like go to school, get a job, right? I think that's the quote unquote more secure way of doing it. But I think I would say it's a little bit more dramatic for me in a sense, because I do run a video production house, right? Which is, and why that is more dramatic to me, because it's not the normal okay version of an entrepreneur or a business from our culture, like expectation, right? Because I feel like with Raman, if you have you do have a real estate business, it's a little bit more okay, because it's what our culture is okay with, right? Versus like where I'm like, at my end, it's like, so what, you're gonna become like this big Hollywood guy now, right? Like you can make films out here, I'm like, no. And I used to use quotes from like, like, oh, like we watch movies like Steve Jobs, or somebody making it from zero to nothing. I used to tell my parents, I was like, yo, they did it. And they're like, oh, you're gonna be this extreme 1 in a million case. Then I was like, no, there's other people out there. It doesn't have to be like the 1 in a million. There's actually millions of business owners that are out there, thriving and living to their full potential. So I think on the worst fear side for me, it is like not making it.
Yeah, no, I totally, I totally get what you're saying, because before real estate, did a bunch of other businesses and never really, like, then it was always like mom saying, oh, go back to school to get like a master's so you can get a job here, or not really that support. And then jumping into real estate, they got more comfortable. Once they started seeing stuff happen in real estate, now they're believers, right? And they're very supportive of it. So yeah, I could only imagine that's an even harder hurdle to kind of overcome, because I felt that same until it was something that they knew works or they've experienced and heard stories of, right? Common stories, right, in real estate.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's like I think it's worse for me because there's a why attached to, that potential is like I want to be able to provide for my family.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean that in like past tense for my parents and like my future family too, for my future wife, my kids, because if I can't provide, then I don't want to be labeled as like, oh, you, like my dad used to say, you're gonna end up on the streets. You ain't got nothing going for you, and like it was so built in growing up for me. Like, I think that like being in the business is like heightened for me because of that. It's like, oh, this is like almost the worst thing you could be possibly doing, being in a business, and I just, I don't know, I just can't like knock it either. It's like a 180 thing for me. It's like I gotta go do this because it's part of who I am, like this is my baby, I'm gonna build this, like, type of thing. So for me to have it not work is I could lose sleep over that. Like, I have lost sleep over that, Now I think that goes back to like, oh, like we gotta take action, and we do take action, and we have some successes and things like that, and we're continuing to build it. And my parents are starting to realize, just like how your parents were starting to realize, right? But I think it's what keeps me going is like, oh, my parents are like, oh, you're not gonna be able to do shit with this, you don't know what you're doing, So, but yeah,
because I feel like our cultures are, I would say it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Because my family's the same thing, right? They want you to just get that full-time job of whatever is highest paying and like most stable. And business is probably, it's almost like taboo. It's like, you're never going to do that. And then especially the fields that we chose, it's not as normal or typical as like your regular business ones. And I feel like mine's very similar to yours, where it's like, to this day, they're not going to accept the stuff that I'm doing. And I think my greatest fear is just, am I not going to be able to get to that point where I provide them and actually prove that, hey, I can do this and everything will be all good. And I think that's one of my main driving factors, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I reach that point before, like, that day comes where maybe they're not around anymore. But I'm like, all right, it needs to happen before that, and where we can all enjoy life together still.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, like, I feel like another like fear is like I don't know what I would do without my parents. Losing them is actually really scary. Like, not in a like we can't like do business, take care of things like bills or things like that. It's more or less like they're my parents, like like. So I think that's a real fear. But that came to mind while what you were saying. But I mean, how are they now?
I mean, they're like
It's
more
like transitional, right?
they're like more accepting of it, but the fields that I chose is not something that they're gonna ever like care for more than like me quitting all of this and just getting a normal job, right? I think that would make them more happy.
But I think we talked about it a little bit last time too. It was like, what is stability, right? Like, you're gonna have a 9 to 5, but we still have those layoffs like happening. I think it kind of goes back to like, oh, do we, like, you're gonna hold your own like cards in your own hand and like play them as you choose, or you're gonna give them to someone else and let them choose for you? What happens with your job and money and the living by your terms type of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's some scary stuff, man. Like, legit. So, anything else you guys want to add to that?
Mike, end it on a positive note.
Yeah,
go.
Send it positive.
Send it.
Send it.
Full send.
Let's see. Fear. What was this last one? What was this last topic?
Worst fear.
Worst fear. Then we did scheduling, and then
Planning versus action.
Give us something like super motivational.
Motivational.
Just look in the camera like, don't be a little cat.
If I were to end this on a positive note, considering what we've been talking about, I mean, man, this is how I look at things a lot different than most people do. But I mean, the biggest thing, when it comes to like, pursuing your career, whether it be working for somebody, working for yourself, doing whatever it is, focus on yourself, focus on your goals, execute, dolphin noise expectations of yourselves and what other people put on you. Don't let someone else's fears of they have for their lives affect what your life looks like. We live in a different world now where you can actually make something out of yourself from nothing, just like your parents may have done for themselves back, however many years ago. So like I said, screw those expectations, get out there and get it and execute.
Wait, I got a good one that I heard. I think I might have shared this before.
Whoa, I thought we said Mike to close it out.
This is super short. Have you guys ever heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have not, actually.
Yep.
No,
Absolutely.
That's one that stuck with me for a long time, and I think about a lot. Comparison is the thief of joy.
I actually watched Creed, the first one, again the other day, and I think like a good, not to be all cliche about it or whatever about it, is like they always say like a fighter's thing is you versus you.
Yeah.
Don't look at anybody else. It's like you versus you all the time. So
Ed,
do better than you can do.
We need you to drop a gem.
Drop it. Just drop it.
3
Tell
or 4,
them,
bro.
Man, if you're going to do business and you're thinking about it and your parents are kind of like the one holding you back, just go for it as early as possible, because then you don't have to have as many drawbacks later down the road, and you don't have to waste as much time figuring out the way.
That's a gem right there. Like
You can be using that time to already figuring out your way, then, like trying out a job for 4 years and then deciding to do that.
Yeah, that's real right there. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that has been table number 7. We will be back next week with more topics, and you can find us at network.ptv. Go ahead and give us a follow there. You can watch, listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, as Mike likes to say it. And we do this for free. We do it for free.
Do.
We
do for free.
So share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, share it with family, friends. Because I would bet money that how we think about things and our worst fears are actually pretty similar to a lot of people that are out there. So share this with somebody. And anything else you guys want to say from that? We're good? Good. All right. We'll see you guys on the next episode.